So something quick to announce. What are we adding to our repertoire now?
The YouTube. This is official. You're getting the down and dirty all through us. So if you are a YouTube person and you want to watch on YouTube, here we go. First video on YouTube.
So the question is this: how do we live the best life that we can with the limited amount of time that we get to be here? Is it by accumulating success and fame and fortune and everything else that society tells us that we need in order to be fulfilled? Or is it much more simple than that? My name's Derek Wilson. I'm the host of the Primal King podcast, and we're going to be answering this as well as many other questions as we move forward. What is up, everybody, and welcome back to the Primal King podcast, couples edition. So we're doing a little re-record because of some recent events. Very recent events. Yes. So we had this awesome episode yesterday.
Yeah,
well,
that's good.
Maybe
we'll use it for something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. So something quick to announce. What are we adding to our repertoire now?
The YouTube. This is official. You're getting the down and dirty all through us. So if you are a YouTube person and you want to watch on YouTube, here we go. First video on YouTube.
So yeah, we've never uploaded a podcast, or no, I think I maybe did one or two.
You've done a couple maybe of your interviews and stuff too.
Yeah. But in terms of especially like us here in our little office studio, whatever, we've never done this. So as weird as it is, I didn't realize people actually watched podcasts.
I don't watch YouTube like at all.
But
I know that we're like the rare. Like, I know that's not normal.
We're old.
Basically. We're old, but I also know that like we don't watch TV either. Like we just don't. I don't know. Like when I listen to podcasts, it's when I'm on the go. I'm either out here working, packing meat, doing stuff, or driving. Like that's when I'm listening to podcasts. Yeah. So I'm not watching.
Well, I feel like I listen to as many podcasts probably as anybody out there. However, none of those are ever actually on YouTube for the reasons that you mentioned. If I'm outside working stuff, I love a podcast.
Yeah.
But I don't like sit down and watch them. But there was a guy that we met with last week who was like, "Oh, you guys have a podcast? That's so cool. Like, you should put it on."
I know he said, "Is it on YouTube?" And we're like, "No, it's not."
It's not.
We're like, "Oh, well, it should be."
Yeah. He's like, "Oh, that's where I watch like all the podcasts." And I'm like, "Okay, good idea." Yeah. So I think
the worst part though is now you get the visual. So like yesterday in our podcast we did, I had showered and ready for the day and looked fine. And today you're getting the post workout. So this is just another version of, you're going to get all the real raw.
Yeah.
Some days it's going to be good and some days it's going to be sweaty. And we just got done working out a little bit ago. Went on our coffee date, got our coffee this morning, and
now it's
here we are.
Record. Good, better, and
starting the day.
Right?
Here we go.
Yeah. So one of the reasons why we wanted to re-record, though, because for all of you who are on audio, none of this probably matters at all, right?
Yeah.
Kind of our traditional listeners, if you will. But there's something that happened, and I want to be very careful about kind of how we frame this, because this isn't a way to trash anybody.
Yeah.
And I don't want it to turn into that. But when it comes to life, let's start there. And then let's funnel that down to business and then to relationships and everywhere else. You have to lead with honesty and integrity.
Well, and let's just go step back really fast as well. So again, nothing was wrong with yesterday's interview. It's not like we aren't going to use it, or it was like, oh, we don't like that topic. But literally, and again, without going into the details, some will know, some will not. One is very public, one is very private that nobody else knows about other than probably us. We've had 2 instances in the last 12 to 24 hours of like, I don't even know, mouth on the floor. Is this really happening? Like the situation is like, this isn't a April Fool's yet. Like it's not like, holy cow.
Well, the one, so I'll set this up, and again, like not going to trash, not going to call out names or any of that, but for probably local people, they know what's going on, which is another company who I wouldn't even say is a competitor of ours, but they are in like the meat space or whatever. It comes out that they're like under all these investigations,
like formal police report.
Yeah. Like 7 felonies,
gossip.
I think it was, for basically ripping people off. Right. And again, they're allegations. Don't know if they're true, but that gets posted out on a sheriff's web or Facebook
page.
post.
Which
And then-
imagine small town,
Yeah.
like it is going wild. Like,
Everybody's-
get your
every-
popcorn out
yeah.
because it's crazy.
So I didn't even know about this. You actually told
I
me.
knew a little bit,
Jess
yeah.
told me about it. But what really spurred it is that people started tagging us in the comments.
Yeah.
And so
In a good way.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody who
Yes,
was like, go use
absolutely.
them.
Absolutely. So basically it was like, oh my gosh, like these people ripped me off. Like all the comments, so many of them were really, really bad. And again, like I don't know that everything there is true. Like
Yeah.
it's Facebook land, social media land, but usually like where there's smoke, there's fire.
Yeah.
Right. And what I noticed is that there were very few people who were willing to come out and actually defend that business, that company or whatever.
There were a couple people that did the like,
but it was,
oh wow, I'm surprised by this.
Yeah.
I had a great experience a few years ago.
Yeah.
And then everybody would be like, well, yeah,
But-
and since then, I mean, it was just ugly.
When you talk about like a Twitter ratio, like that's what it looked like. It was
Awful.
definitely the ratio was like bad people, blah, blah, blah. And again, like I'm not here to make judgments.
That's whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then the second one,
and I think it was an honest mistake. I really do. I hope it is. But we're working on this other deal. And again, without going into too much stuff,
share at this point.
It's contract involved and lawyers and all of this type of stuff. And so we had this agreement written up. And then
and Derek thankfully had the thought of like, okay, because so we've been working on this all electronically, but then we get for months. And then we get the official hard copy document, right? Like this
got to get it notarized,
sign it, notarize it, all the things. So he's like, I just kind of had this feeling. He's like, will you do this really monotonous thing with me? And will you like I'm going to read the version that I have that we went over with our lawyer, and you like read the hard copy they sent us. And like, let's just make sure that some of these changes that we needed to get made. I mean, it's thick, right? Like, I'm kind of like, oh yeah, like, okay, yeah, I have all the time in the world. Let's read a 20-page legal contract. This is fun. So we're going through it. And there's a couple things where he's reading. I'm like, wait, hold on. Like read that again. And it was like, oh no, like, well, here's one little word where it's like, instead of any, it's all, and again, like there are things that were like, yes, that does need to be changed, but it wasn't like anything ginormous. It was like, oh, okay, maybe that got mixed, or, oh, here he wanted, our lawyer asked that this word be, a different word or struck out, but it was like, okay, context. It wasn't like changing anything, capitalizations, things like that. But then we get down to some critical pieces that when you guys had your conversation with the lawyer and this third party, some heated conversation over, it's like none of that's been changed. Like the things that were quote unquote agreed upon were not changed, weren't updated. So then it was like, okay, no, that like none of this has been changed. So again, if we would have just gone in blind and been like, yeah, they updated it, let's just sign away, we would have just signed like a horrific.
Well, and what did I tell you? I really do feel like 5 years ago, I would have just been like, yeah, we agreed upon it, got physical copy, just go sign it, get it back in. Now, to this company's credit, they did say, hey, it was an honest mistake. If you would have signed the wrong copy, we would have not held you to it.
So they say.
But you never know, right? Like you never know. And it was just wild because both of these things happened within like 2 hours of each other, or at least, we were aware of the first thing. And so it was just like, okay, what we need to do is a different episode, because I feel like one of the things that our kids get in the most amount of trouble for, right? Because the kids are kids, they're dumb, right? Like they do a lot of dumb stuff.
Yeah.
Anybody with kids, like, kids are dumb. They're like, we were all dumb when we were kids because we don't know any better than to be dumb, right? Like
figuring it out.
Ideally in life, you learn more and you do better. But, like with our kids, it's always, okay, you messed up, you confront them. And then when they lie about it, that's when they get in trouble.
We tell them all the time, like, what's the worst thing you can do? The absolute worst thing. And they're like, lie.
Like,
yes, 100% the worst thing you can ever do is lie.
And lying has a lot of different forms. It's not just verbally saying something, it's being deceiving somebody.
Yeah.
It's being
we talk about sneaking too. Like,
sneaking,
okay, if you're sneaking something, you might as well lie about it because you're trying to lie about it. Like you're trying, like sneaking's just as bad as lying. You're trying to get away with something that you shouldn't be doing.
Yeah. So you might not be like verbally saying a lie, but by sneaking around doing stuff that's deceiving,
usually
like
sneaking candy in our house.
Yeah. And that is a lie, right? Like it is a lie. And so usually what ends up happening, because again, kids are dumb for the most part and they get in trouble and then they try to lie. And it was my brother, it was my sister, it was them. And it's like, no, now you're lying. Now you're in big trouble. Like now you're grounded. Now games are getting taken away, whatever it is.
Yep.
And the reason for that is because of all of this that just happened recently, right? Which is, and I don't know, again, like in the first situation with that other company, I don't know like how it all panned out, and I don't know the lying
Well,
or
nor does it
whatever.
really matter.
Yeah, it
Like, I don't
doesn't
really
really
care.
matter. But what I was so thankful of, because I know Jess and I, like when we talk about like core values, not just of maybe our business, but with our family, with our relationship,
Mhm.
a big one of those is honesty, like radical
Yeah, honesty,
transparency.
integrity, like
Yeah,
there's no hidden.
because what was so cool about seeing that is, like these a bunch of people are just ripping this company, right? Almost to the point to where I feel bad. Now we had our own interaction with this person a couple of years ago with some
Yeah.
copyright stuff that wasn't great. So
Yeah.
I already had some
We kind of
preconceived
had,
notions.
yeah, an inkling.
But at the same
Then again,
time,
whatever.
yeah, we moved on. She pulled down the picture she wasn't supposed to have, whatever. But having said that, it was like one of the coolest things that I realized was that we actually had some of our customers hopping into the comments saying, "Hey, no big deal, guys. There's an even better company. You guys should try out Crosso Meats. You guys should go there because again, it's all local and these
Yeah.
are all local people
Within like an hour away.
Yeah, within 45 minutes or an hour away. And what was so cool was like there's actually people advocating for us.
Mhm.
And I think when it comes to a business, like there's nothing better you could do
Yeah.
than to build it in a way to where people will advocate for you, where people will actually go out there and essentially evangelize your message and everything that you're doing. And I think that a big part of that is because of the integrity side of it.
Well, and let's go back and also share because I think one of the important things too is to like share disclosure. Like we're not perfect.
No.
Like we have messed up. Like
Yeah.
there's been, I mean, big and small, right? Like I mean, I'm trying to think of like the biggest mistake we probably had is like, when we've had, people where they maybe misunderstood and thought that they were going to get something different from their order. And again, like for one, it was like, okay, did we actually mess up? Maybe not. And an example I'm thinking of, like, no, we didn't really mess up, but there was unclear expectations of what the person was going to receive in their bundle of meat.
Which is whose fault?
Which is ours.
Which is
Exactly.
ours.
And that was where it was like, okay, yes, like, you know what? Like sucks. But, and quote unquote, did we do anything wrong? No. But at the same time, it was like, well, it's not their fault. So our communication obviously needs to be clear, which is why we went back and now like on our website, I mean, anybody who's ever been on there sees like in a bundle, it literally says this includes 2 steaks, 3 this, 2 of this. Like it's so clear. It's not approximately this or,
well, and if you want to see
anything like that.
Like some of the inside baseball behind why we did what we did is because we get the question all the time. Do you guys sell quarters, halves, right? Well, what maybe a lot of people don't understand that aren't kind of in the weeds with us is that you might get a quarter of beef from one steer that is, 80 pounds, right? You might get a quarter of beef from another steer that is 50 pounds.
Well, think about it. I mean, for anybody who's totally like way out of the cattle world, just like humans, right? Like it doesn't matter what you do. Like there's different genetics. Like they're going to grow different. I'm going to have a 1,300-pound steer and I'm going to have an 1,100-pound steer.
Yeah.
And,
or a 1,500.
And a 1,500 pounds. Yeah. I mean, like
right?
they're going to be
so
like various.
Yeah. And so what's going to happen in that scenario, if it's just a true quarter, then whoever got
and
the
Bob's going to get the smaller amount and Sally's going to get way bigger. So yeah. So what we did is we were like, okay, we're kind of going to put together what's approximately a quarter or a half, but we're going to list out like, no, I don't care what that quote unquote steer weighed because we, have multiple harvests at one time. Like you're going to get 8 ribeyes. You're going to get 6 roasts, like whatever it is. I don't know. I'm making up numbers, but yeah, like it's literally exact. So anyways, what I was going to say though with that is in those situations, we did, we would explain and say like, hey, so sorry that there was any confusion. This was how we intended. However, we have always made the choice to go above and beyond and say, to make it right, we're going to give you whatever. And it might be things that we've had to eat from the costs. Yep. There's been times where, we've shipped something incorrectly. So literally they get it 2 days later and whatever I was doing or, whatever. And it's like, oh gosh, they were supposed to get, 2 top sirloin steaks. And I just brain farted out and gave them 2 New Yorks. Well, at that point, like, I'm not going to tell them like, we'll send it back now. Like they can't, for one, it's all, perishable, whatever. It's like, you know what, my bad. Keep them. Yep. Here's some more. Or if there's been times where we have, something's gotten delayed or for some reason, like we were going to ship it. And, I mean, again, things happen, right? Where our dry ice doesn't show up or whatever, but that's not their problem. So we're like, hey, we're going to get it as soon as we can. And to compensate for any inconvenience, here's, a few packages of meat sticks, or here's some extra burger, or here's some, like whatever we can do to go over and beyond to take care of that customer. Because again, it's not, so I guess I say all that to just reiterate that it's not like we've never made a mistake. Like we have absolutely made mistakes, but there's a different way.
We don't have enough time to go through all the mistakes.
Exactly. Right. But there's a way to go about it. And my hope, and well, and I can say confidently that I know, like, even the people that we've made mistakes on, can't think of anybody who hasn't ordered again. Like, it's not like we pissed them off and now we've just like done. Like, we made it right. And people are human.
Well, and the reality is that margins are so small in the meat world. Even if maybe you're someone who thinks our meat is expensive, like our margins are so small that when we make a mistake and have to send out more meat, like we're going so far in reverse, it's insane. But that's the right thing to do, because I believe that if you treat every customer as if they were your only customer, you are going to grow exponentially, right? Because those will now become your sales team.
Yeah.
Right. Like if you run a business and everybody that you sell, whatever it is, you could be selling home construction, you could be selling, widgets of whatever kind. If every person that you sell to has such a great experience with you that they then go and tell somebody else, that is the best form of marketing and sales that you'll ever have.
Oh,
it's
by far.
way more effective than cold traffic to a Facebook ad, right? It's way more effective than you guys sending out mailers or cold calling people or any of that. Like the best thing that most people overlook in business is being able to have your customers go create new customers, because that's what they call like an exponential reach, right? Because every person that tells somebody else that has a great experience, and then they tell somebody and they tell somebody, like if you want to crush your business, like I feel like that's one of the best and most underrated, right? All the people are talking about marketing strategies and campaigns and funnels, and no, it's like, no, at the end of the day, if you're honest with your people, you take great care of them, they will go and help you build your business.
Well, and what I would also say to that, and this again can translate to business, home, relationships, family, all the things, is, excuse me, when you say being honest, it's also like not just not lying, right? But it's almost that open and honest communication. Now, again, are there certain things that you're not going to disclose all your dirty laundry? 100%. Please don't. But there also are times, let's take again the example that we had happen recently, that if anybody again follows us on the meat side, they might have seen little inklings, but we had a huge shipping error a couple weeks ago. 100% not our fault. We've shipped the exact same way we have for 4 or 5 years now. Same labeling, same all requirements. When you ship dry ice, it's a quote unquote hazardous material. So you have to label certain things and all the stuff. So we had done things, all the things. We shipped, I don't even know, 50 some boxes that day. And 13 of them got stopped. The auditor, Grant in Lewiston, is who I hear, but it doesn't matter.
Be blasting people like that.
Nobody knows who Grant is. Anyways, he, for whatever reason,
address while we're at it, or what?
But for whatever reason, like I said, they got stopped. Doesn't matter. And
real quick, for all of our people that do advocate for us, please don't go death threat Grant and Lewiston, right? Like, just leave the guy alone.
He was confused. It was fine. It's not a big deal. But no, so they all got stopped. So, right. So I had all these orders that people had already gotten tracking numbers. Their meat was supposed to be delivered on Wednesday. And all of a sudden, thank goodness, our UPS representatives calling me and saying, all your packages are stopped. What's going on? Da, 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 da. Anyways, long story short, I'm like, great. Well, I have to contact these people because they all think their meat's coming tomorrow. Like, what is going on? And again, I feel like all this to say, we were just honest. I don't feel like we did it in a nasty way. It was just like, hey, FYI, this is what's going on. I am so sorry. This is not your problem, but I also want to explain what's happening, and we'll get them all reshipped out next week. No issue on you. Like, please accept our apologies, yada, yada. And everybody was fine with it. But the reason I say that is you can also be open and have clear communication, because I think that sometimes it's personal and people don't want to like hurt their ego, or from a business people are like, oh, well, we have to, act like everything's perfect and we have everything 100% under control. So they don't just tell them what's going on. And that's part of where I even look at this business situation where, again, I don't know, but in the comments, what it alludes to is that people would take a animal in for harvest. They would pay for this animal to be harvested and they would never get the meat back. This individual is saying, well, it's because they were so behind on bills and blah, 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 whatever. It doesn't matter. But in my mind, I'm sitting there thinking like, okay, if you are in this situation where you cannot perform your business and you have all this stuff going on, that is when you need to say, you know what? We have a lot going on right now. I'm actually unable to accept your animal right now. Like it could have been handled so much different ways.
Well,
And that's where
open.
the being open, right?
Yeah.
Like quit trying to like, everything's fine. Everything's fine. No, it's not fine, because now you have all these people. And that's what, I mean, not funny, but it's kind of like, oh, like it's cringy. Let's more put it that way. Is you're looking at the comments and people are like, great, you're going bankrupt. Like, I don't care. Where is my animal? Like, you still took it. So like, can I have it back and I'll go cut it myself or get somebody else to cut it? But no, it's like disappeared. And again, the gossip is that they're selling it to other people. And anyways, doesn't matter. But I mean, I'm just saying, like be honest about what's going on. If it's like something's happening and you're like, hey, this all, went to crap, like, let's be honest. And I think from a personal standpoint too, right? Like there's going to be those times where it is uncomfortable. And we were just having the conversation, can't remember what it was, but with one of the kids the other day. And I was just saying, I was like, even if you have like messed up or done something, I was like, if you go to somebody and you're like, hey, you know what? Yeah, I said that, or I did that, or I, took that, or what, I don't know, whatever it might be. I said, you're going to be looked at and respected so much more by coming forward and having an awkward conversation for 5 seconds. And then somebody's going to be like, hey, no, like, it's all good. Like, cool. Because then that honestly, like people know, like that was really hard. And they just came and like fessed up that they did that,
Well,
so
it gives you the credibility.
Yeah.
It shows the character. And one of the big things that I know I look for in companies that I want to work with or I want to be a part of is having that integrity.
Yep.
And
well, let's talk about this morning. What bothered you the most about the emails back and forth today?
Well, it was the fact that when I called out the error.
So we find the error in the contract and he emails them and it's basically like, this is not the accurate document. And you did say, I'm going to assume this was an honest mistake.
Yep.
However, like I can't sign this.
And the person had responded was, basically not taking any accountability whatsoever.
Blamed it on another person.
So I took a picture and sent it back and said, this is just one of the many examples where it was not changed. And then at that point, they took responsibility.
But before that, they were like arguing with you about like, well, I sent you the right document. And Derek was like, do you think I'm lying? Like, I'm not like.
Well, and that was it, to where what happened in that response right there brings a big red flag in my head. And this is exactly what I was telling Jess, is that, again, we all make mistakes.
Yeah.
And if this company, this person would have just been like, you know what? I get it. Yeah, we probably sent you the wrong file. Honest mistake. My bad. Totally apologize. We'll get the new contract
instead
sent
of
over.
a big old long
instead
defensive.
of like a long, defensive. And now I'm like, okay, so this might be a company that makes mistakes. And when you call them out on it, they're not willing to own the mistakes. Because one of the big things in any business, guys, especially for you who have businesses, you may know this, but in business, you make mistakes. Like
absolutely,
it's unavoidable. Easy for me to say, but it's unavoidable.
Good Lord, unavoidable.
There you go. To make that mistake. And when you do make the mistake, though, it's more about what happens at that point. Do you say, okay, yep, I made the mistake, I apologize, basically ask for grace at that point, or do you double down? Like, the worst thing you can do when you make a mistake or when you lie about something is to double down, because now all of a sudden you can't fix it. Yeah. And so much of business is about speed. Well, how can you go forward fast if you're still trying to, cover all your tracks on these other things?
Well, and I think too, there's been times, right? Because sometimes it is like, okay, I need to get a response out like right now. But I don't know what happened. I don't know what's going on. And that's what we were kind of saying this morning. Even if that company would have just been like, hey, thanks for bringing this into his attention. Like, let me look into it and get back to you. Yep. Done. Like, that's all they have to do. And then they could go and find out and like, what the hell had happened? What's going on? Again, there's so many things in my career from an HR standpoint, or even from, again, our meat standpoint. Last night, there was a situation, somebody, for whatever reason, our website was doing something funky. I have no idea. Like, it obviously, again, some of you know, like tech is my nemesis at times. And so I was just like, hey, like I'm having the same issue on my end. Let me look into it and get back to you. Like, I don't have an answer for you, but I can respond and be like, yeah, something's going on. Yep. This person's like, hey, my order won't go through. Yes, something's going on. Let me look into it. I'll get back to you. And then they're like settled, right? Like, it's like, okay. And even if somebody's mad at you and somebody reaches out, or I mean, again, imagine we've all gotten lots of phone calls where people are like, why did you do that? What's going on? And you're like, well, I'm not sure. Like, let me look into it and get some things together and I'll get back to you. Like, that's okay. But having that like defensive, I never can be wrong. Like, we're all wrong. There's all things that come up. It's one of the things I tell even our kids, and it kind of drives me nuts because, the other day, what was it? Kennedy forgot. Oh, we forgot to do something when we were getting ready to leave. And I was like, well, Kennedy, like you didn't take care of this. Like we talked about this earlier. She's like, sorry, sorry. And it was like, well, no, like don't say sorry. Like you're not sorry, first of all. And I'm not looking for a sorry. Like I don't care. But like, how do we avoid it in the future? And I think that's another thing of that skill set that kids learn, we need to learn. And kind of like we talked about at the very beginning with the communication issue of our meet. It was like, okay, obviously there was a miscommunication when people were getting quarters and halves as to what was to be expected. So it was like, so how do we correct this so it doesn't happen again? Okay, we're going to list out exactly what's included in our packages. Or, I mean, there's one where sometimes people come up because they'll say, oh, well, it's 2 steaks. Well, our steaks come in packages of 2. So people get them and they're like, oh, I only got 1. And even though they're always fine with it, because I'm like, oh no, there's actually 2 in that package. They're like, oh, okay. That's one where like on some of the packages now it says like, a little asterisk, like, please note steaks per, 1 package contains 2 steaks. Or so again, it's just avoiding the continued confusion in the future. Like, what can you do to over and above communicate?
Well, and I think it again kind of comes back to where we started too, which is understand that if somebody is reaching out to you, there probably is a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And when you just get defensive or maybe you lie about the problem or you just think they're stupid for bringing it up, one of the best things you can do in any time you're getting criticized, and this is very hard to do, and I'm still not good at it, full disclosure. But when someone does criticize you or your process or whatever, gives you feedback with your business, always step back and say, is this true?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because again, like if we want to be rooted in truth and integrity, that's kind of has to be the first question. Is this true? Is, again, coming back to some of the stuff that Jess has laid out with our business, is this complaint true? Because if it is, we need to address it because they most likely aren't the only person who had that issue. They might be the only person who's voiced their concerns because a lot of people are just kind of go along to get along, right? Mm-hmm. They don't want to send you that extra email. They don't want to tell you like, one of the things.
Thank you so much for the people who do. Yeah, like I love when somebody like lets me know there's a problem because then we can fix it.
Yeah. And one of the things that we do is, and I would encourage everybody who has any type of an online business, especially, is we have what's called an abandoned shopping cart email that goes out. So if you go to our website and you're going to buy something and you don't, we will track you down and ask you why you didn't buy it. Right.
But I think what's important in doing that, explain our last email in there if that's what you're going to do.
Well, the main reason for that is because we want to know why.
Yeah.
Like what would compel you to go through the process of checking out and then not finish your order?
Yeah. That's what I was going to say. Like our last email. So I mean, you guys have probably all experienced where I'm like, your cart's going to expire. Your cart's going to expire. And it's just annoying, right? You're like, I know, I decided not to buy. Leave me the heck alone. Like I didn't want it. It was too expensive. I decided to go with a different color, whatever. Like leave me alone.
So what we did is we put in there, hey, like we're a small business and your feedback is very, very important to us. Would you please let us know why you decided to not?
Yeah, we want to know why.
Now, again, like 99% of the people don't ever do it, but the 1% of people who do is so helpful.
Yeah, it's really good
because,
feedback.
It's like we get that feedback and then we can say, okay, either A, we didn't communicate properly, or B, it's something that we can't fix. Like one of the biggest things that we get is shipping cost.
Yep.
Right. No, we're not a butcher box. We're not a Omaha Meats or whatever. So we don't have millions upon, tens of millions of dollars in revenue that we can eat the shipping costs. Like we do eat some of it, believe it or not, but we also have when you order and you have it shipped, you have to pay some of that. And most people don't understand how expensive the shipping is. And so when they get there and they go to check out, they may look at the shipping and decide it's just not worth it to them. Okay, fine. Like I get that, but that's something that right now we can't change, but we still appreciate the feedback.
But we also, we know the feedback. And what's honestly, and one thing I've kind of been considering, just going one step further, is that typically, so then I kind of have, something that I'll respond and sometimes share and be like, well, here's some ideas how you can kind of decrease the shipping, find a neighbor or a friend that you want to split it with, or different ideas. And a lot of times, even then people are like, oh, I never even thought about that, or I didn't think about that. So again, to me, that clues me in of like, I should probably be even better on the upfront explaining some of those things, or what are some ideas, because we know this is a hiccup. So anyways, kind of all this going back to just saying is like, what are your values and sticking true to that? Because I think too, that's a conversation where we've had where there's also been times where we've wanted to, again, blast out certain things, or, we have emotions, we get mad or we get frustrated, or, we do sometimes get, even just ourselves have people say things around town that aren't true, or, all the just small town stuff or whatever. But the reality is that then we sit back and we're like, yeah, but you know what? Like, that doesn't align with our values. Like, what am I going to do? Blast that person? Am I going to go talk bad about them? Or like, it's not worth our energy. It's not.
How many of you out there, I would ask, whether you have a business or not, have any type of, you know, like some people will call it a mission statement. Some people will call it
Mhm.
company values or core beliefs. Like there's a hundred different ways people term it. But like how many of you have that? Because if your core values are built around integrity and honesty, and there could be other core values that are completely different, right? Like some people's core values is work ethic, or maybe their core values are,
Well, it's
I don't
almost like your goal too, right? Like and I'm making this up, but it's like to bring, light to everybody around me or like whatever it might be. It doesn't have to just be your traditional.
Yeah. And so if your core values, if you have those set up within your company, within yourself, that's going to bleed over into everything else. And
Mhm.
I feel like so much of one of the most important things that you can have in your life and in your business is honesty,
Mhm.
is just telling the truth. And I know that people are like, oh, well, of course, right? But it's amazing how many people lie every day about
Mhm.
everything.
Mhm.
And what ends up happening is that that will get out there. It will seep into every part of your life. It will destroy your relationships. It will
Mhm.
destroy your marriage. It will destroy your business.
Yep.
Like people who build big stuff for the most part are very, very honest people. I know we want to look at these people running big businesses and think
Mhm.
that they're shady and they screw people over or whatever. Most of my experience with people who are running big, awesome companies are some of the most straightforward, almost sometimes like uncomfortably or brutally
Mhm.
honest, to where it's hard to be around them because it's like
Yep.
easy, man. Like,
Yeah.
but if you're operating in this kind of scarcity mindset of, oh, I don't want to be honest because if I'm honest, then they'll judge me, and if they judge me, they might not buy from me or they might not like me. Well, the reality is that you're going to be attracting the wrong people anyways.
Yep.
Whereas
Exactly.
if you are true to yourself, you're true to your values, you're true to your, the truth that you know to be true,
Mhm.
you eventually will find the right people and they will trust you. They will go to battle for you. They will be the ones in Facebook comments advocating for you. Whereas it's kind of like the old saying, right? Like if you stand for nothing, you'll fall for everything, right?
Mhm.
Or for anything. And
Yep.
that's the same idea with this. So we got to wrap it up. We got other stuff we got to be doing here, but
Get a
we
shower for
just
the
we
day.
just wanted to bring this to you guys because a couple of different experiences. And like I know for me personally, if I feel like a company or even a person for that matter is lying to me, ripping me off, doing shady stuff,
Mhm.
I will never buy from them again.
Yep.
There's just too many options now. And whatever your business is, if you have a business,
Mhm.
chances are there's too many options that people could go and buy somebody else
Yep.
from somebody else that they trust more.
Yep.
So
Well, the other thing I would just say too, real quick, is just to, stay true to those values. And again, there's times where, sometimes your values might get questioned or people, again, might say certain things about you or whichever, but in your heart of heart that what you're doing is right. And, or even if sometimes you see, maybe you do see businesses that are, or have had experience where they're not ethical or they don't stand for the values they're saying they stand for, or, the two-faced or whichever, just in like this situation, like it might have taken years, but it gets figured out. And like it will come to light. It will be seen. Like the people who are doing those
the
things
truth
who
always
aren't
comes out.
honest, yeah, the truth always comes out. They're gonna get caught in
Yep.
something. The words will get, strewn, like it'll happen.
Whether
Like
you like it or not, the truth will always
the
come out.
truth
So
will
you
come
might
out.
as
And
well just
so
be honest
yeah.
because then you have nothing to hide. There's less guilt, less anxiety, and all
Yep.
of that. So we got to wrap it up.
Yep.
But having said that, what do the people need to do now?
Share the show.
Share the show.
Yeah, share it. YouTube, obviously, share the link with people.
So did we figure out like I still need to go on YouTube? Like you can
You
share.
can share YouTube links. Yeah.
You
So it's just
share
like a
the
link
link.
anywhere. Just like you
Okay.
can just share the link. So share the link if you're a YouTube watcher on any
Would
podcast
love to see
platforms.
some comments,
Yeah.
maybe.
Comment. Let us know too if you're liking this. Do you enjoy our couples editions? Are there other topics you want to hear? I put a flag out on my Instagram yesterday asking for, what people thought and what they liked, and gotten some good comments there. Just let us know what you think. Share the show. We don't have, we're not paying to like share this with anybody. It's just kind of out there in podcast YouTube land. And the way it gets shared is that you guys share it with other people. So if there's things you're gaining from it or insight, or you just want to, share these messages with other people, share it, take us so we can see it. Derek's at Primal King. I'm at Bootwear and Mama.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Last thing I'll say is that again, what we hope to do with this episode, with the couples edition, is to hopefully shine a light on more of like traditional values, hopefully, because there's a lot of weird stuff going on out there. And I think a lot of people feel isolated. They feel like, okay, I'm maybe a little more old school, but yet I see all this weird stuff going on. Am I the only one that thinks this way?
No.
The truth is that there's way more of us that
Yeah.
feel the way that we do than there are of them. When I say them, the weirdos, right? And so quantify that however you want. And so by you sharing this show to other people, it allows more people to have a more of a collective voice, right? Like more people are like, yes, I do agree that, more traditional, tell the truth, stuff like that, because a lot of that just isn't out there. And so again, by you guys sharing it, whether it's sharing it on Instagram, sharing it on YouTube, however you do that, you guys can figure that out, right? Like
we'll teach Derek in the meantime.
Commenting, all of that stuff helps with the algorithms, I'm sure. So would love to see your feedback.
The other piece is always you can review the show. So on any Apple Podcast, Spotify, all those, there's
Ratings.
where you can do the ratings and reviews. So go give us a rating, give us a thumbs up, whatever it is. Let us know that you guys are liking it. And if you're not, tell us what you'd like to hear different.
Sounds good. All right, everybody, have an awesome day. Talk to y'all soon.
See ya.
I absolutely love having you as a listener of the Primal King podcast. If you don't want to miss out on the great content, then it's time to hit that subscribe button right now. Do not be left behind. And then share your thoughts and feedback with a written review of the show. I read every single one of these, and it helps me make sure I am serving you best. It also allows others to find this content, and it builds this community. Make it an awesome day, and we'll see you next time.